Welcome. This is the third of a series on the subject of IEP and special education law. My name is Jeff Gottlieb. I am a special education attorney located in Southern California. There have been two IEP YouTube videos preceding this, which are also on my website at www.specialeducationattorneyatlaw.com. Those covered the first one, that is, on IEP law. The second one reviewed the subject of what you need to do as a parent in preparing for an IEP meeting. Today what we're going to do is we're going to cover the subject of how you're supposed to act and conduct yourself at an IEP meeting. Now, you don't need to take notes for this particular session today. I have them online. Just again, go to my website at www.specialeducationattorneyatlaw.com and go to the tab that's titled IEP Checklist. Actually, it's IEP Prep Checklist. Click that tab, print it out, and you'll have all the notes for today, and matter of fact, for the preceding IEP YouTube video as well. If you have problems accessing the, our website or finding the tab, simply give a call to our office at 562-699-2412. I'm going to perform or manage this video a little bit different than the two others I've done already. For almost all these subjects, I know the subjects backwards and forwards. I've gone to tons of IEP meetings. But because it's extremely important that I go in a particular order, I'm going to refer to my notes. So I'm not going to ad-lib today. So please excuse me. Hopefully it's still professional. But what's most important is that you get the information you need in order to help your child. The first thing that you need to do, as I look here at my notes, is that you want to walk into an IEP meeting always knowing what you want in terms of placement, services, and goals. And what's most important is why you want each particular item and the facts that support that as well. What you also have to go into, which is related to what you want, is what your concerns are. If your child's been regressing, meaning, for example, grades have gone from C- to fail or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter if they're modified or not modified, or in behaviors, you've seen that your child is regressing behaviors where your child was making progress before. Those are not the solutions, but those are your concerns that support generally what you want. The next thing, which I talked about in the prior IEP video number 2, is that whenever you go into an IEP meeting, you must be prepared in terms of your documents. You must have should have your IEPs all in one binder, chronologically organized with the most recent dates on the top. Same thing for your assessments. All your assessments in a separate binder, chronologically the most recent on top, and then you have binders or folders as appropriate for everything else. You also should have little post-its. So if you're going to refer to a document, you don't spend any time looking for the document. You have to act and be your son's attorney or your daughter's attorney at an IEP meeting. And you have to be prepared to distribute that information. So have little post-its attached to documents that you may want to share. What's also important is that during the IEP meeting, you show a controlling attitude. And what I mean by that is quite often school districts will run over parents. Don't always do it intentionally, but this is what they do for a living. Special education department administrators, they go to IEP sometimes several in a day, many in a week. It's on their home turf. So they just go through what their agenda is and try to get that resolved and get out of the IEP meeting as soon as possible. You have to show that you're an equal in an IEP meeting. Remember, an IEP meeting is not a democracy. There's only one vote that really counts in terms of making decisions, and that is the school district's position, because they're the ones that control the computer, that's taking notes, they're the ones formulating the FAPE offer of what your placement and services should be in the IEP document itself. What your position is, you have to use your position of persuasiveness, and you have to command respect during the meeting. Don't let the district not respect you. And the way you gain respect is you organize before you go in, you articulate what you want, and you know why you want it. The other thing here is how you handle certain parts of the IEP when other people are talking. So for example, let's say that you have a teacher that's making a statement, and the teacher is making a statement in your child's favor of the placement or services that you may want. You want to repeat what the teacher says, if it happens to be a teacher, it could be anybody, at the end of that person talking. So for example, let's say a general education teacher were to state that your son or daughter loses focus quite often, and needs prompting, you want to ask the teacher to repeat what they said and prompt them what you want them to say, and make certain that the school district is reflecting that in the notes. Because let's say it's about prompting and focus, that goes to whether or not your child needs an aid, as an example. The other thing is, if someone says something that is against what you want, do not ignore it. Allow the person to finish, and then when they're finished, what you want to say clearly is that you disagree with that person and state the reasons why. This is about taking control of the IEP meeting and leveling the playing field between you as a parent and the school district. And parents typically don't know how to do any of this. Laura is comfortable with this, and many advocates are as well. The other part is, if someone were to ask a question during the IEP meeting, let me rephrase that. If someone were to make a statement of, let's say, of clinical significance during an IEP meeting, or perhaps about a particular test, and you do not understand what that person is saying because it's not your particular background, there's no problem with you to simply tell that person, I thank you for what you just presented, but I do not understand what you just said. You're saying in clinical terms, could you make it easier for me to understand? I'm a parent, I'm not a speech pathologist, I'm not a vision therapist, whatever. And please repeat what you said, but put it in a way that I could better understand it, or give me some examples so I could better understand it. Because quite often someone may say something that you don't understand, yet it's relevant and pertinent to your child's well-being in terms of placement and services. The other thing is, before you leave the IEP meeting, you should obviously sign the IEP that you're present. You should obviously sign it that your rights were given if they were given. I do not recommend that on the day of the IEP that you sign the document that you consent to. You can do it if there's no, time is of the essence. But generally the reason is that I don't want you to do that is sometimes something may have been said in the IEP meeting that is not reflected in the IEP. For example, there may have been an offer of a particular service, yet it's not reflected in the IEP. And in an IEP meeting, you have limited time. You need to make certain that you go home, you read it, you understand it, it accurately reflects what took place in the IEP meeting. And then if everything's fine, then you go ahead and you sign it. But never get rushed in an IEP meeting. If school administration says that you must sign it today, that is not true, and from my perspective, that is an unlawful statement to coerce you to sign something you're not required to sign that particular date. However, to facilitate the process, I do highly recommend that you review the IEP before you leave the room, because if things are reflected in the IEP that you don't agree with, that were never said in the meeting, for example, sometimes the school administration will say that parent agrees with such and such, when the parent never agreed to such and such. So you need to have that stricken from the IEP notes at that particular time, which can either be crossed out if the notes are handwritten or modified by the computer. The other part is that there's a concept called stay put, which means is that you can give a partial consent to an IEP and a partial dissent, or you could dissent to the whole IEP. The rule of law generally is, in terms of IEP and special education, is that when you don't consent to a particular IEP in terms of a particular service, or you dissent to the entire IEP, what's enforced is what was the last agreed upon IEP. And I'm going to go over that in more detail in a subsequent IEP YouTube video on the subject of stay put. But in the meantime, I apologize if I have to run through this fairly fast. YouTube videos only allow about 10 minutes on a particular subject matter. Hopefully this was beneficial to you. Please take a look at my website of what I reviewed today. I want to thank you, and good luck, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.